are the tales of the
I'm Jeremy Green.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Cast, a podcast where we love and they kill. That works, right? I love and Gary kills. Jeremy loves and Gary kills. That's probably better. Yeah.
Yeah. Jeremy and Gary love Will Kills.
Okay. It's Will's fault.
There we go. Yeah. We called a little bit of an audible. We had plans for a couple different things in this slot. One of which I'm excited to announce. We're going to have a guest spot. I think we talked about that a little bit.
We did.
We're going to have Gwen, Duckfeed producer extraordinaire, join us to talk about Old Man Logan. Very excited about that. However, the way scheduling worked and everything, Gwen's going on tour soon. And I was supposed to watch Miss Marvel for TV wrap-up, MCU TV wrap-up, and I didn't.
Nope.
I didn't have it. I watched the first episode. I liked it just fine. Soundtrack's really good. And then I did not have it in me this week to watch the rest of it, like chug it.
That's okay.
It was a busy week.
It happens. It's not all. Sometimes you just don't want to sit down and relax and watch a fun TV show about a girlish hero just trying to come to terms with her place in society. Sometimes you're better than that, you know? Sometimes you're better than that.
So sometimes, I just wanted to watch something with it was like bring back that U.S. agent guy, bring back that John Walker.
Yeah.
From I wanted to watch something with him, like just a hero who looks more like me.
Mm-hmm.
A
real shitbag of a person.
Yeah. Yeah, just like, a good old boy. That's not true at all. That's not going to pretend to be racist here. I thought it was good. Her dad's super fucking charming in it.
Oh, yeah.
I love her family. It's good. I just didn't want to. I didn't have time. We're for Watch Out for Fireballs. We're playing a very old CRPG, and it's grindy. So I have a lot of that to get through.
Yeah, I'm in a bit weird moment with TV right now because Autumn and I keep wanting to, because we're super stressed out, like in our day-to-day lives, and like we were like, oh, the new season of Ted Lasso is on. We enjoy that show. Let's watch Ted Lasso. And Ted Lasso is a very funny show, but it's now in season 3, and all they really care about is like dealing with people's like internal shame or interpersonal conflicts or whatever. And like I just want the Ned Flanders looking dude to say Ned Flanders sounding stuff and be funny and kick a football around a little bit, and that's not happening.
Yeah.
Roy Kent's not yelling at anybody, or he's not yelling at anybody enough, and I'm very mad about it.
It's too wholesome. Not wholesome. Too literary.
Yes.
Too focused on highbrow stuff. That keeps happening. Me and Liv are watching the X-Files for the beginning. We just finished season 1 of that. And it's old season, so they're all 24 episode long seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But there are nights where I'm just like, I don't have it in me to like watch a 90s X-Files that maybe might be kind of crappy. Let's just watch an old It's Always Sunny.
Yes.
So we've just been throwing on classic episodes of that where there's no character growth.
Mm-mm.
There's nothing to get invested in. It's just like, haha, funny. Now let's go to sleep. And that's what we're looking for.
And even when that show like concerns itself with doing like multi-episode arc character development, it's generally in just like the most awful way possible. Like it's just the worst thing in the world. So I love Always Sunny. I love those dudes. But no, we're gonna do God Loves Man Kills. I don't actually know if we said those words out loud. We got distracted talking about TV shows. So yeah, we're going to cover the early 80s canonical
graphic novel
graphic novel from X-Men God Loves Man Kills by Christopher Claremont and Brent Erickson.
Published in 1982 originally. Pretty important X-Men story, I think. Like if the idea is we'll get into how enjoyable it is, which I like the story. We haven't talked about it off mic, so this is the first time Jeremy's hearing any of this.
Oh, I thought this was going to be a rip session.
No, it's not a rip session, but it's okay. Well, I can rip it because it is real silly, and at one point, Kitty Pryde does say, "What if somebody had said," and then throws a slur out.
Yeah.
It's a little bit tough. And there's a lot of Bible quoting, which I know you and I both just skim past. When that happens.
Oh, yes.
But so like when this came out, as a thing in terms of like X-Men history, I think it's like good and big. That's where I'm going to put it.
I think it's like overall it is a good X-Men story. It is classic Claremont, and that there's just a whole lot of text to chew through. But it's good 80s art. It's really fun interactions. It's reading the Wikipedia page on it, I was kind of fascinated with the idea that it was supposed to be just like this one-off non-canonical story. And then like I guess people thought about this for years. It was like, actually no, it's because it was so good, like people liked it so much that they wanted it to be part of the X-Men story. And it wasn't until like the second X-Men movie that they did a follow-up to this. I guess God Loves 2, Man Loves 2. Right?
It's God Loves, Man Loves, or God Loves, Man Kills 2, I think is what it's called. I remember, I didn't read that book. It was a Chris Claremont book in the 2000s, but I remember reading reviews of it and stuff. But this other stuff, the Purifiers and Stryker have been rolled in to X-Men, become canon. This is the book that X-Men 2, the second X-Men movie, is based on, like very loosely, but there's more parallels than just the name. And again, those things. The idea. So there's a collected edition, a special edition of this that I read that has 10 extra pages that tie into what Chris Claremont was doing at the time, with a absolute, like, one of the worst character designs I've ever seen, a character called Warden. It's real silly. They got the original art to do this framing sequence of Kitty Pryde telling a little girl the story of this graphic novel.
Oh no.
The reason I bring that up is there's an interview in the middle of it that I read with Chris Claremont. I don't like how Chris Claremont interviews very well, but one of the things he said was that him and Louise Simonson, when they were working on this, they're like, what is the X-Men story we can make that tells you all the stuff you need to know about them and their place in the world? Like, if we wanted to make a graphic novel that's like, this is how society treats the X-Men, this is their struggle, here are the characters, these are, like, in broad swaths, what their personalities are. Like, what is one book for that? And I think it actually is pretty good at that.
Yes.
That is the biggest thing I have to hand it to him, is like, no, this is a really good fears and hates them story. And I always like X-Men dealing with prejudice instead of, space.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Things like that. Like, I think this is better for the X-Men. It's one of so Marvel did these things called original graphic novels from 1982 to 1990, and they're real weird. Have you ever looked at these things?
No, not in this one. Realizing that this was a whole series made me want to kind of dive in a little bit, because I was like, oh, so this is what they saw the Watchmen come out and were like, oh yeah, we need to do something.
So click on that link I sent you. This is all of them, and tell me what's wrong with this picture. Like, what happens kind of every once in a while? They throw in something pretty weird. These graphic novels here.
This is okay.
So you got the New Mutants got introduced in a graphic novel. I've read that before, and it's fine. It's good. Death of Captain Marvel happens. That's great. Hulk versus Thing. Cool. Big fight. Killraven. Warrior of the Worlds. Okay. He goes and defends Martians. Okay. You got Daredevil. Spider-Man. Cool. And then Wolfpack and the Pit, which were from New Universe, which is this weird 80s Marvel tried to start a second universe thing, and they're getting really fucking pushed in this. Look at Wolfpack, man.
Wolfpack looks like the what is that movie with the two gangs where they snap their fingers at each other? What am I thinking of?
It's the Warriors.
It's the Warriors. Yeah. It's very much that. Yeah.
Meet the Bronx teenagers chosen for their extraordinary abilities, trained in hand-to-hand combat by the mysterious Mr. Mack.
Perfect.
They are the Wolfpack.
Imagine if Mr. Mack was just a giant rat. It's some sort of mutant rat. Is that something that we could do? I do like that there's a mean guy on the cover of this in a wheelchair though. Like, he looks like he's very tired of people asking him about his wheelchair situation. Like, how did you get down the stairs into the subway? He's like, shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up. I can do anything you can do, asshole. I started reading the Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom one. There's Triumph and Torment. This because I was like, I haven't read a good Doctor Strange story. Then I was looking at like which ones people like, and this is about them teaming up to go to hell to rescue Doctor Doom's mother, and it's pretty fun so far. It has old Mike Mignola art, the Hellboy guy, doing art before Hellboy.
I was going to ask about that because the cover looks so. Oh yeah, his name is right there. Okay, yeah,
So it's kind of neat. Like, it's cool to see his early art. when it's not as stylized. But this is definitely just like a weird corner of Marvel shit.
Killraven, I'm just fascinated by because it looks so much. It's like Dazzler and Longshot had a child together and named
like
him
their
Killraven.
outfits had a child.
Yeah, sure.
Like
yeah.
and they all got stuck on Killraven, Warrior of the Worlds by Don McGregor.
Leads the Freeman against Martian invaders while searching for his lost brother Joshua. imagine being the Joshua in that relationship, and like your mom and dad named your brother Killraven, and you're Josh.
Joshua, I can't wait to get a Joshua action figure. now with sitting action.
Very, very good. Now including his hometown, his mom's basement.
Yeah. But we're gonna do. So this is just one long issue. The special edition cuts it into 2 issues, but we're gonna do that for this episode, and then be back with more stuff. Next episode, back to our regularly scheduled stuff. But we just needed a short story, basically.
Yeah, and this is it.
Cover.
And we're gonna start with the cover, which is a interesting, like, kind of. I don't know if yours looks like vaguely messed up with like Kitty Pryde coming out of like they wanted to show her phasing, but then they couldn't include a wall somewhere. Like, does that make sense? Is that what's happening on yours too? Like, does it look a little weird?
I couldn't get the original one to open, so I have the extended cut. Is that the one you have?
No,
open.
Mm-mm.
Okay, I've got the extended cut open. For some reason, it wouldn't. The search would not bring up the original version for me.
Okay,
I do not know why. So this doesn't have that. They did new cover art for this version.
Oh, well, that's a bummer. This is the original version is just like the 6 X-Men with like Xavier and a larger Xavier behind them, like kind of freaking out a little bit. William Stryker, with the obviously on TV, like a little floating head, but like the X-Men are standing above New York City, like they're like giant figures above New York City, and Kitty Pryde is on the right hand side. And she's drawn as if she is coming out of the wall, but there's just no wall there. So it's just like her
phasing out of air.
Yeah, her ass is just cut off, or just very funny.
No, and that's how they made BioShock Infinite. She tried to go through the tear and her ass got cut off.
Zing!
And because her ass is in a different world, she's able to manipulate reality.
There is always a lighthouse. There is always missing an ass. Mine also, the second page also has this great message from Marvel that says the previously published content includes negative depictions of people or cultures. These stereotypes were wrong then and are wrong now. Social change is a journey, and we must acknowledge where we've come from to build a more inclusive future. And I find this kind of fascinating because it's like there's nothing necessarily that I think is bad in here. Like, Kitty uses the N-word, but also Kitty, this is not the first time Kitty has used the N-word. Like, I think we all know that she's a little racist. This is literally...
It's that thing that happens whenever anyone you know in real life uses the N-word. Like, if they say it, and even if they act a little ashamed, you're like, oh, they felt good enough to say it. That means they say it all the time.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. If it dropped that easy from their mouths, it's been running through their heads all day. But I don't know. Like, I thought this is a weird thing to put in front of something, because it's not like they make fun of any cultures. It's not like they like all of the race talk and the are we humans, are we less than humans, all of that stuff. I think actually holds up from a 2023 perspective. And I feel like this is a better metaphor than most other X-Men comics, right?
Well, it's what they're trying to do. Like, again, like the remit of this book was to really sell that. It's like a laser focused that part of the X-Men metaphor. That they are an oppressed people.
Yeah.
And you can put in this book. Kitty Pryde specifically draws parallels to people of color. Other books will take parallels to gay people or other kinds of coming out, other kinds of oppressed people. Here, I think it's just because of that word, and I feel like that might be a boilerplate thing they did whenever they republished anything that said the N-word.
Which, I mean, I can definitely see like some people at Marvel being like, maybe we shouldn't. In fact, this copy of it like has the N-word like blurred out. You can only see the N. So which is good. I don't think we really need to see Kitty Pryde saying that on the Marvel Unlimited.
I don't. So. Yeah, I'm not made comfortable by that.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing, since this is tolerance is the point of this book.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's not subtle about it. It's not a ambiguous message at all.
No, not
in this. If anything, it's very much the opposite.
I'm curious, like, I'm always curious about this, but like the time period that this set in, like the context for this book of coming out when it did, like were like I wonder how people were viewing comic books in the early 80s, and like were people like, obviously people at the X-Men were popular, like they were on coming back from the late 70s, they were on this uprise, but like were people really looking at it as the metaphor back then? Like were they really getting it? And I feel like maybe like Chris Claremont was like, no, you guys are just here for the space aliens. Like let me draw a line under this. Let me release this 65-page graphic novel so I can really show you what I'm trying to do here. But I don't know. I'm just kind of curious I mean, there were no comic book review sites in 1982, so
it's hard to say. I know that like dealing with that kind of stuff is part of the reason why the X-Men exploded, in the late 70s, right? Like people were hungry for late Silver Age, Bronze Age stuff where it wasn't biff bang pow, black and white morality about stuff. So that is part of why it took off. But I also don't know, you're right, that there's not, that I can find like discourse, about it. Like I want to read essays. There weren't podcasts back then. There might be like scholarly studies, but I didn't like hop onto JSTOR to, to find this before recording.
I was talking with a friend the other day about podcasts being cited in like academic papers and things like that. And like the relatively young audience that are now writing stuff and like trying to cite things in podcasts that could literally just disappear tomorrow. Like, they could just evaporate, or maybe they're like Spotify exclusive. And so like the person reading the paper doesn't have Spotify.
The professor has to.
Yeah. There's a hip hop guy that I follow that started a like deep dive into Michael Jackson. And I was super excited about it. So of course, like I opened up Overcast and was like, typed in the message, and typed in the title, and no, and then I had to go back and it was like, oh, this is I don't even remember the server. It's like a title exclusive or like a something exclusive. It was something that I didn't have access to. And I was like, well, that's a real fucking bummer, man. But whatever.
Yeah, that's irritating. Yeah. At least let me buy it a la carte. Like at least let me patronize the creator directly.
Yeah.
Like,
and I didn't look further than that.
You have to give Jay-Z money to.
Yeah. So if my buddy, I can't remember his name. I was going to make a joke about it, but I guess if he's listening to this, I'm sorry, man. I'll listen to your Michael Jackson podcast when it comes to iTunes or whatever. Anyway, in this comic book, we're going to start with two small black children being murdered by purifiers, just to kind of set the tone for this entire book. They're just playing at a playground and they just shot to death basically by this group that identify themselves as
they're running. Like their parents got murked, like they're asking about that. Like what happened to mom and dad? Don't worry about them. They're gone, kids. This is very intentional that this is two kids of color, here, and that they're purifiers. Like the idea being, again, it's not a subtle book, right? It's trying to make us think like, oh, these are racist. They're here for racial purity. But then when they're about to shoot the kid, when the kid's his eyes start glowing, he's a mutant there. And the little girl may not be a mutant, but she does get also murdered.
It's bad, dude.
It's laser blasts.
And like they hang a sign on them that says mutie, and literally like they don't hang them, they're not lynched, but they are they're
crucified on swing sets.
They are crucified on swing sets, and
basically
it's horrifying.
Yeah.
And our hero of the story really, I think, is Magneto, and he's the one that finds these kids, and is like, I cannot believe like this is they're going after children.
This is fucked up. He's seen this shit before. In the interview section of the extended version, they talked about how it was kind of a big deal. This was the first major thing where Magneto spent a lot of time without his helmet, which sounds silly. It sounds like, Malibu Stacy has a new hat kind of thing, but it was so he could emote.
Yeah.
The artist did not want him to be anonymous. They wanted, because he is you're right, he's kind of a protagonist of this. He's not wrong during this at any point, and he's the one who saves the day, which was also pretty neat for this at the time.
That's interesting because I've been watching a lot of that Mandalorian series. And it's the exact same thing where like you have a real hard time connecting to any of the supporting cast because they're all in dumb Star Wars helmets. Like you can't see their face. Like, and there are only two of them really get like the ability to do actual like character work, and you know who those two are. They're the stars of the show. So like, but like the rest of them, like it's there's something missing from the show because your usual like colorful supporting cast is nowhere to be found because
you're not getting face acting. Yeah,
because all you do, that dude carries a chain gun and that guy flies a little faster than everybody else. Like that's all you get. So
it's interesting. There have been studies and stuff about how that applies to sports. Like people will connect more with basketball players than football players because of that. Like you can see them. Like we don't, it's also a reason why masks are like scary to people is because it stops facial animation. Like I've always found mascot costumes a little spooky,
Yeah, absolutely.
And just like wondering why, and then learning like, no, there's studies behind this. This is a human nature thing. It's because I can't read their faces. They have a big unblinking, unmoving face, and that activates something in your lizard brain to be like danger, which is probably why Magneto had the helmet in the first place.
Yep.
Other than just it's a cool design, like, villains having that kind of helmet so it hides what they look like. Same thing even with the Joker's like permanent smile, right? Same kind of thing. He's not emoting normally.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting that this was like the first time that was done because I feel like there's
of the first, like the most. I mean, he's taking his helmet off, but he doesn't have it for most of the book.
Yeah. I meant like not the first time, but like it's interesting that this was a specific choice because we've seen so many comic books since then, like of where these guys just take off their mask and take off their helmets and like talk to each other like they're normal people.
Yeah, it was a continuum. I had to get to that.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool. We cut over to New York City, to the headquarters of Stryker, here, and this is where it begins. My biggest bugbear for this is that Stryker speaks 80% in Bible quotes.
Yeah,
and I can't,
dude. I got nothing on this. I hate this so much.
if I read it, like I'll read it and be like, oh, I know he's talking about. I know this applies to real life, but it's just saying something very simple in 10 times as many words as it needs to borrow kind of importance from the Bible, so he's talking about this like, parable, about wicked things and that should be smited in the Bible. And obviously he means mutants and that's fine, but it's so many fucking words just to say it in a very flowery kind of boring way.
Yeah. There's a pretty large reason why I don't read the Bible. It's because it's written like this. Like it's not because the stories are dumb. Like I'm not going to say anything.
It's not a good book though. It's like a Kojima kind of thing where it's like maybe there's a good story in there, but the storytelling is fucking awful.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. The Bible via Kojima actually could be.
The Kojima Bible just made me fucking my blood turned ice.
Maybe Gary, maybe it saves video games. Have you thought about that? Have you thought that maybe it saves video games
or saves Christianity? Like either way, like everyone's getting saved.
Honestly, if it destroys Christianity and saves video games, it might be a worse trade-off. I don't know. I can't tell.
Or destroy both.
Or get them both. Yeah, knock them both out. Yeah.
Let them fight.
No longer are we reading the King James Bible. It's the
King Kojima Bible.
King Kojima Bible. I love this. I love this concept.
It's 70 sets. It's like this, the first apostolic Bible.
God, when you see what Mary Magdalene
cuts off the end. So.
Yeah. When you see what Mary Magdalene is wearing, you will hang your head in shame.
Mary Magdalene was forced to eat concrete as a child. She has to be naked for plot reasons. So he's just saying they're being evil there. I like how this guy is drawn. He's just a guy, That was also a cool thing about this. Like the X-Men are used to fighting, Eric the Red and the Living Tribunal and shit. And this is just a dude. He's just an old white guy with power, I like that about him. He's also the other thing about this when this came out was that TV, like very scary TV evangelists were really a huge thing.
Yeah.
Not that there aren't super scary religious, like there's the fucking Moonies, right? Like there's very scary religious movements now, but they're not on TV 24/7. They're not in the conscious because nobody who watches fucking TV. You don't get them as much. But this was like the fire and brimstone preacher on TV days.
I had such a weird interaction with someone about this the other day because it was a customer. And we were driving past this house, and it's like the house of this like well-known like TV evangelist person down in outside of New Orleans. and it's a huge fucking house, like one of these gargantuan spaces right on the river. And the dude that I was riding with was like, "Do you know whose house that is?" And I can't remember the guy's name. And I was like, "Yeah." I didn't want to hear the story, so I was like, "Yeah, well, whatever." I know the dude. He's like, "Yeah, it sure seems like they sure do make a lot of money." I was like, "Yeah, that's always kind of put me off, the fact that they just keep asking for money." And my grandfather, like when he passed away, like I found that he had been giving all of these people so much money, and he said, sometimes I think, like, even though those people took your grandfather's money, your grandfather gave it to him hoping that it would do good, and I think that's what matters. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. That doesn't fucking matter at all, bro. Like, that doesn't. It's shitty. It's shitty all the way around. Like, I'm sorry. Like, don't try to make me feel great about my dead grandfather. He was a good dude. You don't have to tell me that. Like, he was.
He got taken advantage of.
He just got fucking. He was on a fixed income. Like, what do you want me to say? Yeah. But of course, I'm in a customer forward environment, so I was like, you really make a good point there.
You know what? Tell me more about my grandfather's motivations.
Yes. He's being debriefed. I like this a lot because I didn't realize at the time that they were creating this comic book to be like, here's everything that you need to know about the X-Men. And but I really like this like debrief situation of like, there's 6 X-Men. Here's who they are. Here's how their powers work, and they get like a little action shot of all of them. And it's just like,
and they're kind of through his lens. So yes. Storm is a self-styled pagan goddess.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
Is true, but that's how he would say it, obviously. So we get a little introduction here as he's watching the crew. He's getting ready. He's going to do a big broadcast. It's a big deal. He's on the verge of a big debate there. And he's basically, if things go well, these guys won't be a problem for very much longer.
Yes. We cut to chapter 1, which opens with Kitty and this dude Donnie, I think his name is Danny, fighting at the poor dance studio of Stevie Hunter's dance studio.
This is a weird side character from 80s X-Men.
Yeah.
Who was hanging around with the X-Men for a while. I remember she's a big part of the Extinction Agenda.
Yeah.
Which is weirdly like one of my favorite, just because I read it when I at the right age here. But I'm like, who the fuck is Stevie Hunter? Like, I'd watch the cartoons and it was like, all Wolverine, Colossus, a person, but this was the way.
Stevie Wonder. She's in a fight with this dude because we don't actually know what he said, right? Like
presumably a racial slur.
They do talk about it later where he's talking about how great William Stryker is and how great it is that he's going to kill all muties, and Kitty obviously has a problem with this and gets physical with him and like punches him in the face and pushes him out of a window.
Crashes him through the door.
Yeah, like it's
throws him out a window. Shit, Kitty.
And our X-Men friends come and break it up, plus Stevie, and like they're like, hey, you have to get a hold of yourself. Like, you've been trained. You could have seriously hurt this dude. But she feels kind of betrayed because it doesn't seem like they're like taking her side of it. They're just breaking up the fight, right? Which is, and I could see Kitty's point of this totally, of like, this guy's saying horrible shit about who I am, and you guys are just trying to calm the situation down, whereas you should be like punching him in the face just like I did.
One of the people is Colossus, who is also a mutant, and one of them is Stevie. Stevie is black there, and she's saying like, you're trained as an X-Men, like you could have killed that guy, you don't need to be getting into these fights or anything. And she says he would have done the same thing to me if he knew. How can he be so calm? And Stevie says they're only words.
Yeah.
And then this is where Key says, suppose he'd called me an N-word lover.
Yeah.
Would you have been tolerant then? Basically saying like, your struggle matters and my struggle doesn't here. The reason why this, again, I think that generally this book's heart is in the right place and it holds up for 2023 eyes in a lot of ways. The reason why something this aggressively comparable like this kind of feels weird is that mutants are made up. And black people are not, so like it's not a horrible point within the world of the book, but also you got to be a little bit careful with that kind of stuff because it's fiction.
Yes,
if that makes sense.
And it's it's really difficult because we're looking at this in the beautiful land of 2023 where we have politicians literally saying on a public stage that trans people are like X-Men, right? Like that was a literal thing that just happened within the last like 30 days. But at the same time, like you look back at this and you see Kitty Pryde, like, what if he had called me an N-word lover? And then like this person who is a person of color is like, she was right, as in a thought bubble.
Yeah.
And it's like Chris Claremont, like, you're a white dude. Like this just seems, but also like I think about like if you know, Chris Claremont using probably what he thought what he believed was a position of authority, right? Like he has the ability to tell these stories, and he's using it to tell these stories as opposed to just pretending that it doesn't exist, right? Like his heart is in the right place. So,
this is good works, like,
exactly
in a way of speaking. Like this individual moment's a bit of a miscalculation, but it is well intentioned and probably did some good.
Yes, exactly.
You know, it also worth noting, and this is a real standard caveat, but this is 40 years old.
Jesus fucking
this
Christ.
book, I know, right? It's a half century. So like when we were growing up, when we were reading comics, this is the equivalent of talking about pre like Superman 1. You know, this was like from the 50s, the equivalent. Like this is so fucking old at this point. Time just keeps going. So for the time, this individual, just like one little bit of well-intentioned clumsiness, I will forgive.
And it's also, I think we should also say, absolutely hilarious in context and out of context, right? Like the fact that Kitty Pryde has said the N-word twice in comic books is absolutely hysterical. Like the fact that comic books have this audacity to do this weird shit is just fucking. It never fails to amaze me, man. You know? Like it's
vitamins to her. She can't stop eating batteries. I like this third person in the panel here. When Kitty Pryde storms off and Colossus is telling Stevie, everything's fine. Who is this super tiny little person next to Colossus? Who's just like, hey, I just got here. What's going on? There's just a tiny girl.
It's got to be Ilyana, right?
I think it might be Ilyana in this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because Colossus walks away with her. But she is just microscopic and feels like she hasn't been there the whole time.
Yeah. Another little fun thing in the Wikipedia article was them. Apparently, I think a bunch of comic book nerds spent a lot of time like trying to figure out where this would fit if it was canon, because it was before Scott left, but also Ilyana was a teenager, so like they were just twisting themselves in knots to try to figure out like what issue is this in between or whatever.
The Zelda timeline on this shit.
Yeah.
They're being observed by a van that has a big inconspicuous 54 on the top of it. Just and they're like, hey, we could shoot the Hunter woman, should we? And they're like, no, she's a human. She's worse. She's a sympathizer, basically just making Kitty's point that she just made immediately after. And they're like, no, our mission's is surveillance. We shouldn't do that. So the idea is this is Operation Headhunter. They're watching the X-Men.
Yes.
Here.
We go back over to everybody drives to Xavier's mansion, and we catch up with the rest of the team who is hanging out, ready for a debate on ABC News Nightline. I remember this logo growing up. This gave me a lot of weird feelings when I saw this.
I love this little exchange with Kitty Pryde and Wolverine. Because this is at the time when he's training her and stuff. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, you got a shiner. What's going on? And she goes, scrap. Fair fight. Sure. You win. No. How come? Like just going into training stuff.
Yeah.
There. I like it. They're all going to sit down and watch this. They all made popcorn to watch Nightline. That's very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And Scott, being very lame, says, shush, you two. The program is beginning. Which also made me happy. Yeah. Or that might be Colossus. I think Scott's not there yet. This is a debate between Stryker and Xavier.
Yep.
The way this person draws Xavier is so fucking creepy.
He looks just really evil, right? Like he just looks so
he looks
evil.
Sick and evil. It's like DJ Qualls grew up. He looks very sick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Xavier that only eats French fries.
French fry God Xavier, absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is a debate that you probably can already hear in your brain, right? Like if you've been following X-Men stuff for a long time, it's William Stryker saying like, "Woo, mutants," and Charles being like, "They're just people. Like, why are you talking about them like they're one like organism or something?" And then the debate gets cut off kind of after William Stryker makes some points using fear mongering, and it's all kind of set up to have Charles like lose this debate.
Yeah, they cut to the room where people are talking about it, and they're like, Xavier's making a convincing case, but nobody's listening.
Yeah.
He's not personable. He's scary looking. It's a charisma thing. It's a lot like the the Nixon Kennedy debate thing, where like on radio, Nixon would have won. People listened on the radio, but people watching on TV thought Kennedy won.
Yes.
Because he just wasn't a fucking ghoul.
Because he didn't look like an evil weirdo.
Yeah, like don't be a little goblin. Like don't be a hobgoblin if you want people to listen to you is the message. So the X-Men watch this, they're all pissed. Stryker won, they made Xavier look like an idiot. So they all suit up to do some training in the Danger Room. It's an 80s X-Men comic. Of course, that we have to have a Danger Room sequence.
Yes.
Get ready. They're all pissed off. Everyone has their internal monologue, about how this is super fucked. And Scott and Storm are not there. They wish they were there. They're at the taping. We cut over to them at the actual taping there. They're watching on the sideline, and Scott's like, we got fucking slaughtered. This is awful. Charles looks grim and foreboding, scary. And he does.
Yes. Which I actually kind of like, because they definitely draw him that way. So, so they go through his assistant, Stryker's assistant, comes up and says, "Is everything in order? Everything in place?" They've stopped Xavier from scanning their thoughts. They got a plan. Yep.
We go to old Danger Room, which I love, which is all robots and missiles they just waste and shit. And we do a real X-Men cliche here, but in kind of a funny way. Like they each get a little challenge with bonus objectives, which is very funny to me. I love Wolverine in the cage. Wolverine got stuck in a little cage.
Wolverine in the cage is amazing. The painted arrows on the floor, like this just screams like Portal test room to me, right? Like Gladys has been designing things in the Danger Room again. It's very funny.
And it's literally a Portal test room. They had to move a big block over to like a weighted.
You're absolutely. That is a weighted companion cube. That is what that is. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the X cube. Like move the X cube. They're all up against their own individual challenge, and they're all failing. And then Kitty Pryde comes with the idea, let's switch opponents. There are two things that happen in 80s superhero comics in general. It's definitely the X-Men, but it's all comics. And it's let's swap opponents, and I'm just the distraction. Those two things are the only two moves in 80s superhero comics,
and both of them happen in this comic book. So
yeah, it's non-fucking stop. Every X-Men fight, this is their trick.
Yep.
Here, so they swap. They all swap. Things that they're fighting, and they're able to win.
Yeah, they put the cube onto the switch, and they are able to go to the next test chamber.
Yes.
Meanwhile, in New York, the Charles Xavier and Cyclops and Storm are attacked, and they are kind of blown out of their car. It looks like they shoot a fucking rocket at their car, and like dudes come up and literally with an assault rifle like shoot Cyclops, and he goes straight down. And then we see also Xavier and Aurora go straight down, like, and then
with a bazooka.
And then there's a bazooka fire that blows up the entire wreckage. I was like, Jesus Christ, no wonder this isn't canon. They're all dead.
Holy shit, very intense. They get down. I love this little bit too. They get done with the Danger Room, and they have a scoreboard. I love this this little leaderboard that they got going on.
I like solo sin mode evaluation. Like what was your synergy, and then how did you work with others, and then how did you do by yourself? Like this absolutely rules. The fact that they don't have this on like Mario Maker co-op mode is very, very disappointing to me.
It makes me want Danger Room Maker, which I guess is Ultimate Chicken Horse.
Yeah,
a little bit,
I guess so.
X-Men themed Ultimate Chicken Horse would be great.
Yeah, there's got to be a mod for that, right? Like that seems like too much fun.
The Danger Room is so cool. They're all going back to their rooms when Nightcrawler answers the phone and just his face drops. I like this moment here where he just smiles to go from things like this. Like this is more 2023 brain, but nobody uses the phone now. So like if something happens and Liv calls me, my heart fucking sinks in my chest. I'm just like, something really bad has happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
If somebody actually calls me, like I'm gonna be like, oh no, this is a tragedy. Like and that's a it's a thing that's happened to me. It's happened to like and it'll happen to you. If you're listening to this, like as you get older, you'll eventually get a phone call.
Stop answering phone calls. That's what you have to do.
This not that I'm saying I wanted to be texted. About this kind of news. Can we do a quick? Can you zoom Can you blue sky me this?
Yeah. Can you look? I'm on Mastodon, man. Can you join my free server or my free liberation server?
Can you flirt me this?
I need you to flirt me this news real quick. Yeah. When my stepsister, when I see her name on my caller ID, it's either like I need help with a computer, and I'm like, I haven't done that in like 20 years, dude. Like I'm not that guy anymore. Or our mutual sister isn't in some sort of problem. Like we have to fix something. It's never good. And he announces to the class, to the rest of the X-Men that, hey, that was the police, and there's been an accident. Everybody is dead. Xavier, Scott, and Aurora are dead.
And
also
accident. Like they framed it as an accident.
Yeah.
You know?
We haven't really talked about it. I think I mentioned it very first, but like this is like that early, like good early 80s X-Men art, and like I love all of the silhouetting and the use of ink, and like it's all very dark and just very good. Like this feels like home to me in a way that is very interesting, I think.
This guy's great. We didn't mention the artist on this, Brent Eric Anderson. We might have, but if not, mention him again. He's not somebody I've seen a lot.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's the good scudgy 80s stuff.
Yeah.
Real good. So this takes us into chapter 2 here, where we're in mourning. Kitty Pryde, who is always the the POV character for a lot of these stories with Chris Claremont, is out by the lake mourning, losing her mind. Ileana comes out to help her.
And, Kitty is just not really like, she even says like, Ileana asked her, do you want some company? I was like, if I did, I would have stayed at the damn house, dude. Like, why are you coming out here? And then Ileana just reminds her, like, they were my family too. They were my friends too. Like, you're not alone. And of course they hug it out. Like, this is just grief talking.
Yeah. It's good.
And
it's good, like good X-Men melodrama shit.
Yep. I love the fact that she just yells out, I hate death. That's a good, I hate death. It's a very Mike, the bankruptcy thing from Michael Scott.
I declare bankruptcy.
Yeah.
I also like that she says, like, with everything we go through, they died in a car crash. Like, that's actually a super brave story. The other graphic novel, the first one, The Death of Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel dies of cancer.
Yikes.
So it was just like a weird. It's a cool story, I always thought, because it's like, oh no, they're real people. They also have to deal with this shit. You expect it to be like a Shi'ar sniper rifle or a Kree scroll thing, but no, like they also did, like one just got cancer.
Yeah,
I remember it from the Squadron Supreme miniseries from the 80s as well. There's a really good bit where somebody's working on like a cure for something and then just dies of cancer. And it just happens. They get sick.
Huge bummer when it happens. There's a moment here where Ileana tells Kitty like a line from some book or something that Peter once told her, which was, if not for the depths of grief, how could we measure the heights of joy? And I had just like a weird moment where I thought they were about to do the bit from WandaVision. Like what is love but grief enduring or whatever? What is grief but wow, that's much backwards. Yeah. What is grief but love everlasting or whatever the line was? And I was like, man, that would be a weird pull if that actually came up. They eventually they talk a lot of this stuff out, and then they notice that there's in this like fucking duck blind canopy,
Rob the robot from NES is there.
Rob the robot has been spying on them this entire time. It's so much like Rob the robot, dude. It's just exactly like that little guy.
It's very funny. So they're being spied on. It's pointing to the mansion. So she's like, let's find out why. She short circuits it. Kitty's power, and they start stealthing around. They're like, listen, I broke this. Somebody's going to come to fix it. It's a Hitman level.
Yeah.
Let's just hang out in the grass and wait to see what happens. We cut over to the rest of the X-Men there, and they're at the crime scene. Wolverine says, this wasn't an accident. And Klaus says, doesn't matter. They're just as dead. And he's like, no, they're not dead. Like 3 corpses were found, but they weren't our friends.
Yeah.
They were consumed by fire. The scents are all wrong. Somebody went to a lot of trouble to make us think they were dead. There. Pretty cool.
Yep. And they're going to go after the bastards that did it. And sure enough, they're part not long away. The Purifiers are over there. And the X-Men accost them. Nightcrawler spawns on top of their car right in front of this chick's binoculars, which is very funny. Wolverine, of course, pulls some dudes out, starts hitting them. And then the driver is like, hey, I'm not going to allow myself to be captured. We are going to
This is Stryker's assistant. This is Anne.
And well. Stryker's assistant. I'm going to sacrifice myself and potentially take a couple of these out. So she jams the accelerator while Nightcrawler is still on the roof, and they take off.
Yeah. So Colossus sprints up to stop the car. They jump out of it, and he slams in the front of it and it flips over. And then he pulls the engine block out.
Yeah.
This is all good. This is fun.
Just want to make sure that they get
this.
he wants to make sure they get the maximum insurance value for this
Yeah.
vehicle. Like they may have repaired it if I just punched it, but taking the engine out, no, it's full coverage, my friend.
It's on fire on its back, but let's make sure. Nightcrawler saved her life. Saved Anne's life and teleported her out before this happened. And Colossus is being a goofball about this. He's like, duh. Either I am strong or they do not make them like they used to. But there's a guy behind him who shoots him in the back with a laser and takes him out.
And this is the first time
I love this guy's big wide COVID screen.
Yes,
thing on his face, on his helmet.
I was just going to talk about this dude's outfit because we haven't really seen the Purifiers like super dressed up like this. Like they haven't had an armor suit or whatever. And this dude's like fucking plexiglass. Like I saw like in the height of COVID, you would see old women wearing these at Lowe's, right? Like because they had to get their plants, but they had to risk their lives to get plants, so they had to just hide themselves. So
it seems like a way worse mask than one that just goes over your face and filters your breathing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This is the welding mask style thing that just kind of like you can breathe up under it, but it stops, I guess, like sneezes from going directly into your eyes. Is the idea.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's
about to
go ahead.
Go ahead.
We're done with this. Yeah.
I'm just gonna move us on. We can talk about this all day. We are scientists, so we do know about the spread of COVID-19 virus. He's about to kill Colossus on the ground when he gets lifted up in the air, and Magneto lifts them all up, takes off all their clothing, and turns them into mummies with their armor.
I love it.
It's great. They're in their little underwear. Their underwear has a little marquee on the front. I like to think that they're Purifier brand underwear.
Oh, you think they got a capital P for Purifier, not for penis?
I hope so. There's it's a little tiny, just for penis, just so you know. PP on your belt. I hope that's a Purifier underwear. P-undies.
And yeah, Magneto is here as a friend. If they will have him as an ally, and then we switch back to Kitty and Illyana, who are getting kind of bored, just waiting for people to show up.
It was a very dumb plan. Instead of just calling the X-Men and being like, "We found a fucking spy Rob on the lawn," they broke it and then just hung out in grass for the entire day.
This is the kind of thing that happens when you don't have Beast on the X-Men. Like he would train them in how to deal with science problems. Like this is just like when you have Wolverine. This is the same thing happens when you have Gambit as the sex ed teacher, right? Like you're gonna have outbreaks of herpes. Like this is just what happens.
This is how Wolverine would have done it. He would have went into Zen mode, but they don't even have cell phones. Like this is brutal. So they go there and they go to fix it. The camera, Kitty Pryde goes underground, literally, like turns intangible and starts swimming underground to come up and get them. But unfortunately, they find Illyana.
I have a dumb question for you. When she goes underground, the text says it's a lot like swimming, only Earth is a far more blank.
Yeah, and the word's missing.
Medium. Okay, so it's missing for you too. I just thought that was.
It was the N word.
You think it was? That's exactly what I was going. Exactly the joke I was about to start making.
It out, actually,
yeah,
Kitty's just really wilded out.
The third time that she's used the N word, and this time there's not really any justification for it.
No, she's just developed a taste for it. She's, I don't know what was there. It's like a printing error.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But it's in. Yeah, I don't know. It's a my edition too.
But they see Illyana, and they capture her and shoot her, and they're like, "Oh no, is she dead?" It's like, no, she's stunned. And this is pretty much our first clue that, like, obviously they definitely stunned Xavier and Scott and Aurora. So
yeah, they're kidnapping.
Yep,
they're not killing. Kitty Pryde is like, I don't, Illyana got caught. It's my fault. They're leaving. If I go and get a message to the X-Men, I'm going to lose them.
Yes.
I have to follow them. She crawls into their trunk and their little trunk alarm goes off. So they flood their trunk with nerve gas. They were very prepared for this very specific contingency.
I love it, dude. I love it when there's like an attack and you have the exact like fucking bat shark repellent just ready on your belt. That just, it's always very pleasing to me.
I also love Anne, the lieutenant villain here. with Ileana just sleeping on her shoulder.
Yeah.
It's very sweet. If you didn't know what was going on, it's like a very cute image.
Meanwhile, the main X-Men have just propped these two Purifier agents up in the corner of the library, and they're going to start interrogating them for information. Wolverine is up first, and he does this claw thing where he puts his fist underneath someone's chin, pops one claw on the left, then one claw on the right, and then of course there's one in the middle just waiting. And that's when Magneto is like, "Hey, bruh, let me take care of this." And he zaps them real good with his electric powers. Yeah,
I think. Well, they're in that armor, so I think he like bends their bodies and shit.
Mm-hmm.
He like tortures them. You know, he resists, but yeah, the X-Men are not not beholden to the Genosha conventions.
No.
Of this. So they torture him and they figure out the plan. Basically, they serve Stryker, and they want to take out Charles Xavier.
Yep. And there's a little bit of a conversation about like, hey, if we employ these kind of tactics, aren't we no better than them? And I get it, Colossus and Nightcrawler, but also no. The short answer is absolutely not. No, they did horrible things to your friends and family, and you're allowed to do like less horrible things to them to be able to get information out of them. I think that's allowed.
The point of the book is that it's not, that the means matter just as much as the ends, but that's the one part of this that has aged the worst. 2023 is the, they go low, we go high X-Men-ness of this.
Yeah, exactly.
That isn't particularly in style right now. But yeah, that is going to be the kind of climax of this. We go into chapter 3 at this point, where we are in a psi realm of Xavier being tortured by his X-Men.
Yes. We know that it's either fake or we're in the dimension where Kermit the Frog died, because the World Trade Center is still there. So that's our that's our clue. That's our big clue. What dimension we are in.
Yeah. The X-Men all have like spooky vampire fangs, and they're crucifying him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Religious imagery is really intense. Like Kitty Pryde literally tears out his heart.
This is
Wolverine disembowels him. Like we see in blood and intestines come down.
Yeah,
fucked up.
Fucking Storm hits him with lightning. Like it's extremely intense. And I love the color scheme, like this like red, orange panels and everything. Like it's really, really evocative, and it's just very, very terrifying as they like continue to morph. They get uglier and uglier, and like Xavier is trying to resist this, and he's just like he's horrified that this is what his children became. And of course, there's a beam of light in this darkness, and a hand reaches out, and if only Xavier will reach out and touch it, he'll be forgiven, and he'll be freed from this torture. But Xavier is about to do it. He's about to give up when he kind of stops himself. He resists at the last minute. And of course, that's when we see that he is actually in our classic gel jar, Gary. We got a glass container full of gel. Love me a good bath.
He's I didn't realize that this was also in the second X-Men movie taken from this. Mm-hmm. I had forgotten this, but the whole bit where they grab Xavier, they're going to have him beam his mind into all the mutants and kill him. That's directly from this plot as well.
Yeah.
Like the X-Men movie is more based on this than I thought. At first I was just like, oh, it's Stryker, but they changed him to a military guy instead of a religious guy, but it's basically just Stryker. Like, no, they actually stole a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Or, used a lot of stuff from it. They were using Mastermind for it, but here they're just using sensory deprivation.
Yes.
And drugs. Like they've got him real drugged up, and they're manipulating his brain. They're like zapping his brain in certain ways to make him think certain things.
And they've even got him psychically linked to Scott and Storm. And when they torture them, he'll also be tortured. Like they're putting on the full court press for this. They desperately want to convert this guy to their cause so they can murder some mutants.
Yep. Stryker, Cyclops is like, what the fuck, man? Why you gotta be a dick?
What the hell? Dude, we don't even know you.
Dude, we never met. Dude.
Bruh, are you for real? Are you fucking for real right now?
FR. This is absolutely a bra moment for Cyclops. And Stryker explains his origin, basically. He used to be a military man. He was at the nuclear test. He was driving away from it. His car flipped over, and his wife started giving birth. And it was a monster. He had a monster baby. He killed the baby and then put his wife and the baby in the car and set the car on fire.
Yeah. Normal behavior.
Yeah, absolutely normal shit. He's a religious man, and he considered like he was being punished by God, for it. He hit rock bottom, and then he read about Xavier's studies. Saw a magazine article and realized like, no, it wasn't a demon that was sent by the devil. It was a mutant.
Yes.
Maybe those things are the same thing. Cool. Good origin, I think, for an X-Men villain. Like this works.
A guy that murdered his child for looking different, I think is the perfect like foil for the X-Men, right?
Very much so.
Yeah, this fits in with it hits all their buttons. This is definitely in the supernatural universe. There's a thing that happens at the beginning of a lot of episodes where one of the brothers turns to the other one and is like, "Hey, there's this case. It does da 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 da," and the other brother says, "Are you sure that's our kind of thing?" And the other brother's like, "Yeah, definitely. There's ghost involved or whatever." And like, I feel like the X-Men would look at this and be like, "Oh yeah, this is our kind of thing. This is ours. This is not an Avengers situation right here." Yeah.
This is our shit.
Yeah. Are the Defenders do it? No. This is not a Defenders thing.
Yeah, this is certainly not a Defenders
Luke Cage
thing.
does not care about this.
Yeah. So he explains how he infiltrated the X-Men. He had an agent who knew Fred Duncan, who is another X-Men also ran guy. Cyclops is like, I don't understand. Like, you hate us this much. Why haven't you killed us? And he says, I have my reasons. This is all part of his plan. He gets a call basically saying that they've got everybody. He's like, oh, we have the Pride girl. And he's like, kill her. Storm says she's only a child. And then he just says a bunch of Bible stuff that I have to ignore. And she gets upset, and Kitty, she screams out Kitty, and a storm starts in New York. She's claustrophobic, and she's freaking out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yep.
Meanwhile, in the Bronx, the purifiers dump the car that they were in with the license plate Muty, which is
they'll never suspect.
Like, just like, who is doing that, right? Like, who? Like, because it's a derogatory term in this univis. Like, if you're a Muty,
I don't know.
It's just so weird. And then they shoot it a bunch.
Yeah. This is how they're getting at Magneto, because he was trying to get that license plate and they claimed it.
It's an ass man situation. It's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, exactly. Me and Liv were driving around the other day, and someone did the signal left, turn right, like switcheroo trick on us. I probably not on purpose, but it was very funny. Like, it actually threw us off, and I'm like, fuck, man, we got bamboozled.
They had like their left turn blinker on and they turned right.
Yeah.
I got pulled over and DUI tested for doing that one time, because the girl I was with was like, because I was taking her home from a bar, and she was like, "Oh yeah, my house is up here on the left," and so I had my left blinker on, and she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot what road we're on. Turn right," and so I just turned right, and then like blue lights immediately dragged me to the parking lot of some like grocery store, made me do like the 10 test, like the walking test, and like say the ABCs and all this other bullshit. And then like I passed, and the guy was like, "Well, I guess I could let you go." And I'm like, "So can I get back in my car with the girl and just go? Like, is that okay?" And he's like, "Absolutely not. You can't drive." And I'm like, "But I passed all the tests. Like, why can't I drive?" What do I need to do? Man. So I had to take a taxi, because this was
ludicrous
2001 or whatever before. So yeah, interesting.
So they shoot up the car.
Yes,
they think Kitty Pryde's in the trunk. They get out Uzis and assault rifles and shoot up the car. But when they open it up to inspect the mess, it is empty. They've got a tracker, though. They're like, I've got a signal. It's fan out, cut off her escape routes, shoot her on sight.
Yep. And now we're going to spend a few pages going through Kitty Pryde's worst, very good, no good, bad day. Like, she's just she's having a Scott Summers kind of day, right? Where she pops out in this like kind of decrepit neighborhood of the Bronx that she's not aware of. I love like how they colored the fire and the dark alleyways and everything. So good. But she runs into like a street gang who are just
who the apostrophe gang is what I like to call these guys. Who like to put apostrophes in the weirdest places in words.
Claremont, man, he just can't complete a word to save his life. It's hilarious.
Hey bro, apostrophe. Want company.
Company?
Not company.
Well, it's a company.
You want help, lady? We be glad to oblige. Just like no, Chris Claremont. It reminds me of that tweet where it's like, the Green Goblin had swag. I look over at the 25-year-old who's TAing my class as she slowly shakes her head. No,
no,
like,
that's not.
But low key, he had trauma. I don't love him for that. No.
I love modern day teenage slang, and I love adopting it as a 40-year-old person. This is great. She gets tackled by one of these ruffians. And she's so startled that she can't phase, but luckily Anne's there to murder this entire group of people for just being in her way.
Yeah. One of them was wearing a turban, specifically the turban that the boxer Great Tiger wears in Punch Out.
I was going to ask you about this. Like, was this taken directly from Mike Tyson's Punch Out? Jesus.
Like, I wish all the whole gang was like the Punch Out gang. It should have been all Punch Out villains.
Unfortunately, Chris Claremont, like most people, do not play video games.
Yeah, sadly. So they stab her, but in the fracas, they fight. She kills all those people, and Kitty Pryde is able to regain her composure and phase through the wall.
Yep.
There.
And this chick murders them pretty brutally as Kitty is able to escape. She breaks into a bodega, which she helpfully tells the casual reader is a Spanish delicatessen. So thank you for that.
I love that so much.
A bodega, a Spanish delicatessen.
It's very funny.
You know what that reminds me of is like who is the guy on Community that raps with Donald Glover? That dude. Like, I hear that so. Yeah, I hear that in his voice. A bodega.
A bodega. She steals some money from a payphone and calls. It rings a bunch, but then they blow up the bodega.
Yep.
She manages to phase out of the way and run away and get onto a train, an L train, and escape. And, she said a cop comes up and is like, "I'm going to help her." This book is weirdly pro cop. That's another way that's not very 2023.
Mm-hmm.
The cops are on the side of justice here.
Yeah, we're gonna spend a lot of time protecting this cop from getting shot, basically. He comes to like see what's going on and is immediately shot by the purifiers. And Kitty is like, "Oh God, I'm in trouble!" And of course, this is right when our team of X-Men show up. Magneto grabs this entire train car and lifts it off the tracks. They shoot at Magneto, which if they had seen any one of the X-Men movies, I think all three of them have a scene about this, they would have known not to do. And
it
then
doesn't work.
He rips all of their weaponry off, rifles and guns and whatever else that they have in their hands.
Yep. And we get a little fight.
Yep.
I hear, a good one. I love Colossus ripping the guy's armor in half off of him.
Yeah, that's so good.
Real good. Magneto just sucks the bullet out of the cop. I love the Nightcrawler teleported one of them to prison.
Yes.
Like, fuck you, due process.
Direct to jail. You were going immediately to jail.
And then again, one of my favorite scenes of the book, Magneto grabs a plate, like one of these car things, and makes it into an impromptu magic carpet.
I love it.
Or a makeshift magic carpet for them to fly over to Stryker.
I just picture that magic carpet ride song like playing in the background of this.
Dude.
Close your eyes, girl.
I love they're bringing the cop.
Yes.
Too. Just like, it's like a weird day for that guy.
How was your day, Carl? Well, you're not gonna fucking believe this, man.
Oof. Yeah. We go back to Xavier getting mind controlled, being hypnotized basically by this into religious fervor to worship Stryker. Stryker wants to use him as a weapon, basically. Continues to do so, and he tells him to lash out, tells Xavier to lash out, and he psychically blasts Cyclops and Storm.
Yep.
And then we cut over to his face where he's got a big smile on his face.
Yeah, somehow making this face look even creepier than it already is. Of just like, this beatific, like, empty smile on the smitten.
Yeah, it's great.
The Doctor confirms that the Cyclops and Aurora are dead. And of course, Stryker is very happy because his plan is working. This is going to go real well for him.
This is the test. This is what they're going to have him do.
Unfortunately for Dr. Ramsey, he's on his way home.
Dr. Ramsey is the guy who's been doing all these experiments.
Yes,
he's like Stryker's torturer, basically.
And he's on his way home when the X-Men are like grab him and are like, "Yeah, this is time for you to tell us everything." And they're pretty pissed. Like, Nightcrawler holds this dude up by his tail, like he wraps his tail around his neck and like holds him up and is like, "Yeah, please, like we have many ways of making you talk, but we have many more ways of making you die.
Yeah, he's fucking everyone's pissed.
Yeah,
my patience is wearing thin. Like this is not going to work. I love this. Them cutting over to Cyclops and Storm's body is dumped on the ground here to go pick them up, and they just throw them on a stretcher.
Yeah,
like bags of garbage. And decides to tag along with this. They get in the elevator, they go down, they're going to go take them to the incinerator, but the elevator starts going up.
Yes.
And against their will, and then the walls become magnetized. So their gun sticks to the wall, and then the elevator just keeps going up into the sky. Like, this is great.
This is so good. This is such a cool use of Magneto's powers. I love that Anne like pries the door open and like jumps out at the last minute. And then like presumably like those other two guys are just like in space now. Like they go to
those guys.
Those guys go to Asteroid M instead of going home tonight.
They I don't know where those guys went. They take the elevator over to their roof. Rooftop.
I guess there is a panel of them tied up in the elevator, so they didn't die. So they just take it over. Yeah, Magneto just flies it over and they tie him up. That's less. Yeah. That's less funny than them going to Asteroid M without helmets. So
I love that this Wolverine's main job in this is to say that Cyclops and Storm are not dead. It happens twice in the thing. He's like, oh my god, they're dead, and Wolverine's like, they're not dead. Magneto's like, oh, the doctor said. And he's like, no. They're in stasis. They're not dead. Just zap them. They're fine.
Yeah.
Like Wolverine just basically gets it. Magneto zaps them and they're fine. It's very funny.
And of course, Scott wakes up and is like, Magneto, what are you doing here? And Magneto has to give like a big long speech about like how his way may not necessarily be like this ideal mutant path, but like in his world that he is going to control. He's going to eliminate poverty and disease and war, and everybody's going to be super happy. And Cyclops is like, yeah, dude, but like then you're gonna die, and like your shitty son is gonna like. Have you met Quicksilver? Like he sucks. Like you're gonna set him up to be king, and it's gonna be horrible.
He says who carries this on? He's like, you will. Like this is why Magneto wanted the X-Men. He recognizes he'll die eventually. He's an old man.
Mm-hmm.
And Quicksilver's not gonna cut it, like you said. And Scarlet Witch has conflicted feelings about whether there should be more mutants. So
I think she was pretty clear.
Yeah, I guess that's true. We cut over to chapter 4 here. This is our big climax for the big show that he's going to have, and they're talking about your reporters talking about it and saying like, Stryker's going to do his big speech here. His big sermon. Some religious leaders are comparing him to Hitler. Even, he has a lot of support from the people, but the government and religious leaders are actually nervous about this. It's a populist uprising.
This is so weird, man. Like I know it's always difficult to separate like current timeline stuff to stuff you read in the past, but like it's really, really hard not to read this and think of Donald Trump in the modern day of everybody like around that dude, like at the time, like as he was in the election of 2012 being like, oh yeah, there's no way that he can win. And then like now he's still to this day like on a fucking tour of doing these weird, I mean, he's not at Madison Square Garden like this guy is, but like it's the same fucking thing. And it is just wild to me. Like it was so aptly captured.
It's pretty timeless in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like, so at this point, Anne comes in and says, hey, Stryker, there's a problem. The X-Men escaped. They took Storm and Cyclops' body. They might be out there. And he says, there are a handful of children. What can they do to stop me? This is actually part of his plan. We'll find out later, is to have them come in and make an example of him and turn all the people.
Mm-hmm.
He starts giving his speech. It's just boilerplate. Mutants are unnatural. Humans first stuff. And the politicians and cops in the audience are not down with it, weirdly enough. But the people are going fucking nuts.
Ironically, the most unrealistic thing in a comic book about X-Men is these cops and politicians going, this doesn't sound good.
Yeah. In real life, it would still be the people, but there'd also be cops and politicians there who are like, hell yeah. It would be, the audience would be 30% off-duty cops.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He spends a lot of time at the pulpit. Like he gets a lot of airtime, and I this is another thing with like I don't doubt that this is all like well written or whatever. I just like at a certain point, like I've heard these speeches and I've seen this stuff, and I'm just skimming the lines because I just don't care.
It's a huge Claremont problem, you know, like where in this book specifically, I excuse it because this is him trying to do like a definitive,
yes, absolutely
accessible version of it. But for me as a longtime fan, I'm not the audience for seeing this speech again.
No,
I've seen every single X-Men, like bigotry class X-Men villain make this exact fucking speech.
Yep.
You know, he flips a lever backstage, and this is amplifying Xavier's brain to hurt everyone who is a mutant.
Not to
in town.
I'm swear I'm not going to do this again, but like the fact that he had somebody like put the lever on stage, like how much is that like, oh, I've got the doors that lock with the button on my desk kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like the fact that they made him put the fucking lever at the podium is super, super gross to me. Like, I don't know what it is about
Madison Square Garden was just fine with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, he's like, hey, you know, we're gonna install a bunch of equipment for this speech. Or like what kind of sound rig do you need? What kind of lighting do you want? Oh, you know, all that stuff I don't really care that much about. But can you get me like a psi amplification unit? We're gonna we have something based on Cerebro we'd like to bring in. Do you have XLR cables for it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we dropped a bunch of anacondas on Nicki Minaj. We can do anything at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah. I'm thinking about bringing a dealer quantity of wet ass pussies to this.
Is that okay?
Yeah, is that cool? It's for the stage show. Little Nas X is going to bring in a conservatively 70 oiled up, you know, black dude beefcakes to dance naked here. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's fine. Totally fine. Yeah, just another Tuesday, brother. Just some blue collar. Yeah, man, that's no problem for me. Got that covered.
It's a union. This is what it's like to be a Teamster. Just oiling up one of
just slapping it on, just like, oh my god,
just like, yep.
This is $1. This is last year's coconut oil, guys. So don't eat it. Don't consume it. That's what I mean. Works fine for the glisten, but you don't want it in your stomachs. Is all I'm saying, man. Wash it off when you're done.
So as this happens, all the X-Men who are around, getting ready to stop this, and some random passersby, start gripping their head, screaming. This reminded me of the movie Logan, a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where Xavier does this shit. It's just hurting mutants, and the proximity to Xavier makes it worse. So one guy ends up getting this horrible internal hemorrhage. Nightcrawler goes to save him, and he also his ears start bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
this is when Magneto makes his move. He lifts the top of Madison Square Garden off and then floats in. And then according to like the senator is like, no, he replaced it good as new. And I'm like, I am 100% sure it's not good as new, my friend.
Not how buildings work. He's like, he's making an entrance, not making an attack. This is contrasting Xavier and the X-Men. The X-Men say what Stryker wants us to do is come in there and stab him on stage.
Yeah.
You know, but Magneto is like, fuck this shit. This has to stop. This is unjust. You know, when this happens, Stryker's ready for it. He has like a way to aim Xavier's Psi Blast to gut punch Magneto at this point and actually zap him there. And Magneto falls into the crowd, and the crowd wants blood. Like, they're fucking losing it. They're about to tear him apart with their hands. Like, he's very weakened. He can barely hold them back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then another thing I think is like kind of deft here. A lot of characters who we don't know to be mutants start being mutants. Start being affected by this. You know, that ties in the metaphor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, people you know and love are going to be this as well. Like, the senator starts getting a headache.
Yep. And so does Anna, the right hand woman of Stryker, when her nose starts bleeding, and like she's like, wait a minute, aren't you? He's like, nope, it's God's will. Sorry. It's like, but I've been nothing but faithful. Like I did all this stuff. So
yeah, this is why the X-Men are coming in through the back, taking everybody out. The cops are protecting Magneto. It's a very tense scene here. Stryker basically says, if you were a true daughter of heaven, you'd accept this fate. Pushes her off the stage, and we get this really great panel of her falling down, and she breaks her neck. And we see it framed by TV. The cameraman follows her down.
Yeah.
We see the frames of the television going down. So this was just on national TV. Like, this is a huge PR problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
really, really cool stuff. I like this.
Yeah, great stuff. The cops are protecting Magneto. It's 2 cops versus like all of Madison Square Garden, you know, which I think they'd probably rush him and, you know, be bad, but they're holding them back. The X-Men pop out. They have to stop Xavier because Xavier is giving them all headaches. Like they talk about how ordinarily this wouldn't even be a fight, but the X-Men can barely stand, with this thing. So they do the distraction. I'm just the distraction where Nightcrawler teleports Wolverine onto Xavier. Xavier stops him, but Cyclops triple banks his laser beam off of different surfaces to smack Xavier in the head.
Chalk, as the
chalk,
comic books tell us. Yeah, so they basically like, oh, if we got there soon, like Xavier would know. So we did this whole thing, and Wolverine is like, man, you cut that pretty close. He's like, I had to, man. Like I didn't do it just because I wanted you to get knocked out.
I love the way that it's drawn, where Cyclops destroys the machine.
Yeah, like
him whipping his head and showing the laser, like slicing it.
Need more Cyclops of just whipping his head back and forth.
Yeah, it's fucking rad. Klaus is like, oh, we won, and Cyclops says, no, we didn't. Like, we got the machine, but Stryker's still out there. We have to end this. This guy is no fucking good. And they go up there and they get on stage. They're like, we're going to say our piece. Like, you've been preaching against us. Let's, debate this here. And he makes his point, again, like, we're just people. It's an accident of our birth, etc. Just, again, typical stuff, the conflict.
Yeah.
These arbitrary labels. And then a very famous panel of this. We get Stryker appealing to like base emotions. He just points at Nightcrawler. He's like, you dare call that thing human? Nightcrawler, the most monstrous looking of the X-Men. Kitty Pryde, who has a big history of Nightcrawler, walks in front of him and says, no, like Nightcrawler is
he's not a human. He's an N-word. Oh, sorry. Wrong panel.
Yes. Like, damn it, Kitty.
Kitty, stop.
Okay, you're getting benched. You're a defender now.
This is ridiculous.
She has the history, like, she was really scared by Nightcrawler when she first joined. She had to go on this thing, and she basically says, like, he looks like that, but he's kind and generous. He's not a demon at all. I wish I was like him. He's better. If the choice is being like him or believing in your God, then I choose my friend. Your God is a monster god. And Stryker just pulls out a gun and tries to shoot Kitty Pryde right there on TV.
Yep.
Right in front of everybody.
And he goes so far as to, like, it looks like he pulled the trigger and we hear the gunshot, but then he falls. He drops the gun. He puts his hand to his chest and realizes he's the one bleeding, and he falls down. And as the panels pull out, we see a cop had shot him before he could shoot Kitty Pryde, and like right next to the camera. So like the camera is showing all of this on national television, right? And then we get this. So it kind of just like completely invalidated his whole point of like, oh, who is the real monster? Like, we're dealing with some pretty like ham-handed like metaphors and similes here, but like it does work, right? Like this is what the book is setting out to do, of just to say like, these aren't the real monsters, that's the real monster.
Yep. He survives, he goes to jail, and we cut over to the mansion where Magneto's still hanging out with everybody. Magneto says like, hey, surely this proves my point. Stryker's goal, people are already saying, and this is also has tons of echoes with Trump shit. People are already saying that his goal is good, his methods are just bad. That's basically what the entire GOP believes.
Yep.
And like half of, centrist Democrats, basically. Like, I wish he just had more decorum. His methods suck, but what he wants is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And Xavier says, yeah, I agree. This is my worst fear. I got turned into a weapon. Nobody actually died from my mind thing, but if I can be taken like this, if there are people like that, they got to go. Maybe we need to join Magneto. And Cyclops steps up and goes, no way. This, and basically, we have a dream, like reminds him of the dream, and basically just says, the ends don't justify the means.
Yeah.
We'll give up everything we did and everything we are, if we do this, and do the Magneto way.
And of course, everybody agrees to this. And Magneto is like, all right, cool. Charles, how about you? Do you join me? And Charles reaches out his hand, and they like touch fingers, and then they softly kiss, and then they leave quietly.
Yeah.
And everybody is a little confused, but also everyone kind of saw it coming, maybe a little bit.
Yeah,
like it's kind of been a thing.
It.
Yeah, everyone
seems,
like, oh, finally they got together. No, he pulls his hand back and is like, no, I cannot. Like, as you reminded me, I taught them and I gave them their reason for being. I cannot desert them. Like, he's obviously having a crisis of faith in his own dream, but seeing his quote unquote children, seeing this team stand up for him is putting the resolve back in him a little bit.
Yep. Magneto says basically, you're all fools. You know, I've wept over a lot of graves, but I'm not going to weep over yours. You know, fuck this shit. You know, I hope for your, for all of our sakes, you succeed, but if you don't, it'll be my turn.
Yep.
One thing about the art real quick, like while we're talking sugar about the art, is I love how not muscular Magneto is.
Yeah. He just looks like
he looks like an old man.
He almost looks like his clothes don't fit him. Like he's like, this is like, that's one of my like favorite when they start doing like these like quote unquote mature superhero stuff is like people putting on their outfits and they don't fit anymore. Like they're baggy and loose or whatever. Like I love that vibe.
It's great. Looks really good. We cut over, you know, he leaves, and they start consoling each other. You know, Xavier is very grateful. You know, he's crying, you know, he owes everyone for saving him, and Storm and Cyclops go out on the deck, you know, and Storm basically says, I'm real proud of you, you know, like you learned the lesson here. And he says, you know, those are just labels. He's like, oh, you know, Xavier was the pupil and you were the teacher. And he's like, those are just labels. I don't need those. You know, he was in need and I helped him. He would have done the same thing for me.
Yep.
And they have like a nice friend like hug. I don't know if you've had those moments where like you got a buddy, you know, like a friend, and it's not intimate exactly, but like you just like hold somebody who's like a really close friend in one of these moments.
Yeah. It's
a nice thing. Like it's the kind of thing you do with your wife all the time. But every once in a while, like I've had those moments where it's just like, yeah, this is, you know, really intense. You know, this closeness.
Yes.
Yeah. Rarely depicted between friends.
Yeah.
Male and female friends without a romantic subtext is my point. This is not me saying like, oh man, you ever have physical intimacy with your friends? Like I get that. I'm a hugger. Like I don't, you know.
No. I understand what you said. Like there's moments of closeness that aren't sexual in nature and are completely platonic, but also are just still very intimate, and having those moments.
It's not that weird in the real world, but you never see it in comics.
Yeah.
You know, like that's why I'm bringing it up. Like it's a well observed thing that kind of grounds this again. You know, and I love this. You know, he's just like, you know, we care for each other and we have love, which makes the world go round. And then he says, if only that were true.
Yeah.
You know, and then that's the end.
A little bit of a weird ending, or not weird, but just like one of those like endings of like, hey, we're like this stuff exists, like we can't do anything about it. Like, and it's nice that we had this, that we could say these words to one another, but like it doesn't necessarily make all of our problems go away.
Yeah, our problems are not over.
Which again is the point. Like that's what he is setting out to write about. Claremont is setting out to discuss in this comic book.
It's still an old Claremont comic, right? So you're still going to get a lot of the bullshit that is hard to deal with, but this is a really good 80s Claremont comic.
Yeah,
I think if I were going to point somebody and they were just like, I would like to get a taste of, you know, Claremont at the peak of his powers. This is not my favorite story that he's been involved with. You know, there are ones I have more nostalgia for, but it's very digestible. You know, it sells the concept. It's his strengths. Like there's a lot of cool stuff going on. You know, I love the fact that media is present for all this and very important. Like there's a bunch of little neat notes. It just got clunky dialogue because that's what he does.
Yep. It's classic Claremont.
That's the only thing holding it back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And and the thing about the media, I think, is a really apt point of just kind of framing this as like, this is one of the, not necessarily the first, but like this guy's getting traction with this populist message of hate, right? Like, and this is like comparing him to Hitler, and like, but there's a camera on him at all times, and like all of this other stuff is setting the world stage for this. So setting like the context for everything that was happening is really important, and Claremont always does a really good job with that.
It's always been his thing. I remember reading, like he has two characters. I can never remember their name, but they're NPR, and they're real like NPR journalists who he always throws in comics, and like that's a real strength, you know, of him as a writer. Like we talk a lot of shit about him because it borders on unreadable sometimes. You know, like every once in a while, it's just the hardest thing in the world to read because it's just this big wall of boring ass fucking text. And that's all stuff we've heard before. You know, there's so many cliches, things that go over and over. His villains love to have mind control necklaces, and it's gross. You know, there's all kinds of nasty stuff that he does, but he has a lot of strengths and a lot of real big innovations. that he does. He's real good. You got to hand it to him for the things he's real good at.
Hey, I don't know if you guys know this, but Chris Claremont, pretty good X-Men writer. He's all right.
Yeah,
he's all right.
Yeah, capable of excellent X-Men writing.
Yeah,
capable of some of the worst X-Men writing you'll ever read in your life. But as long as it's before like 1992, you're pretty good.
Yeah,
like it's readable and fun. Fun stuff will happen. I was telling Liv about something happened and we were watching something, and it was basically the same story as what happened with the Phoenix. So I was explaining it to her, and she did not know that the reason the Phoenix came about or the Dark Phoenix came about was because the Hellfire Club was making Jean Grey think she was in Pirate Times. And I was just like, no, that fucking owns.
Yeah,
that's so funny.
It's
hilarious.
Hilarious.
Look at Cyclops' shirt.
Yeah.
It's real good.
Out of context X-Men stuff is some of the best. I will pepper X-Men facts to Chris when we're recording our other podcast, and it's always a good time where he's just like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
What, his beams come from where? And I'm like, yeah, dude, it's fucking crazy.
It's so good. Sometimes I read something like this that's just like very quintessential X-Men. You have that feeling afterwards, like, man, I fucking love the X-Men.
Yep.
They're so good.
Absolutely.
I love them so much. My beautiful children. So we'll be back probably with the TV roundup, and then Old Man Logan.
Yeah.
With Gwen.
So if you want to, what TV shows? There's Miss Marvel, and then there's Moon Knight.
Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, which we talked about, but we didn't talk about the ending and stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Where they gets there. And then did we end up talking about Werewolf by Night? Do we consider that a movie
we put
or a
that
TV
we
show?
put that in the movie section. Yeah.
Okay,
so,
gotcha.
So so I think it's just those three, unless something
Yep.
comes out between now and then.
Yeah, and we'll do some trailer talk as well.
Yeah, because there's
the
been new
trailer for
trailers.
Marvels came out, and the most recent trailer for Secret Invasion looks pretty cool.
By the time we record next, I probably will not have had time to. I doubt I will go to the theater to see the new Guardians movie. To be honest with you, I'll probably just wait.
People are loving it. Like the reviews have started hitting now, and it's getting like a bunch of A's. Like people like it.
I'm sure. Like James Gunn makes good movies. Like I don't like it's and I'm sure that like it's very cathartic for people because it seems like it's a big send off for all, if not most, of those characters. And I would not be surprised that makes it a very emotional and like touching thing for people who've been following along with the MCU for the last 20 years or whatever. Yeah. So I can see why it would be getting good reviews. I'm not, but also at the same time, like I don't want to cry about a raccoon in a movie theater. Like that's not something that I'm going to do with my life. So
I get that for sure. It's like I don't care that much about the Guardians very much. Weirdly, like the reason I'm excited to watch it is because I want to see the High Evolutionary.
Yeah.
I've read some comics with that guy. He's a real weirdo. He's not a very good villain or anything, but like, I don't know. I bet you it's a really compelling performance. I like that guy who's playing him.
Yeah.
So hopefully he doesn't turn out to be a monster.
Hopefully.
I love Jonathan Majors as well. Well, fuck.
Whoops.
Whoopsie doodle. But anywho, we'll see how they handle that. All that and more on Days of Future Cast.
And if you want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and you can donate some money and get access to all kinds of cool stuff. You get tons and tons of exclusive content in the forms of audio that will tickle your ears. You can join the Slack and participate with our community. And you get the right to tell Gary and Cole to play bad or good video games, whichever one you choose.
Indeed.
Like, you get that choice. Yeah. It's up to you.
Depending on how much money you want to spend.
Make Gary play a Star Wars game.
Yeah, depending on the one.
How about that?
Somebody came along and was like, "Hey, KOTOR 2." Like maybe I'd take the plunge.
Sure.
It's a Obsidian game I'm interested in.
I saw that,
and it hates Star Wars.
I saw that Pod Racer game is free on Xbox, and I'm like, I've got a lot of good memories of that Pod Racer game. I might play that Pod Racer game.
Wowie zowie.
You could dual fist that Nintendo 64 controller, Gary. Control the pods independently from one another. Come on, man. Get with it.
I love controlling pods, dude.
I love dual fisted controllers, my man. Let's do it.
I love to pilot a pod. You can also tell your friends, and that's the most important thing. Yes. You can also leave ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, whichever one you like. And check out the other shows on the network, and keep being safe.
Yeah, please do.
You know?
We
don't
love
use
you.
the N-word. Don't be like Kitty Pryde.
Don't be racist like Kitty Pryde.
Yeah, but also, take care of each other and don't be a fucking bigot and support your trans friends. Not because of X-Men reasons,
just for human reasons. Just for human reasons.
Yeah, just because it's obvious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be a fucking person. Meet if you got a tiny little shred of transphobia still in your life, like I get it. Like I didn't understand it for a long time. Meet somebody. And then you'll be like, oh no, they're just fucking people.
I'll tell you what's been throwing me for a loop this week is Jerry Springer died, and then there's been a lot of clips from a long time ago and from like the last few, like however many decades that dude was on TV, of him just like absolutely supporting the shit out of trans people.
Yeah.
And I was
he's not
shocked.
A bad dude.
Yeah. I had a vision of that dude in my head, and I was wrong. So
yep, there's a lot more to that guy. He was way ahead of his time on that shit. So just for the love of God, like, I don't know.
Hey,
be nice to each other.
Just be more like Jerry Springer, everybody. That's your message from Days of Future Cast.
Yeah. Or Nightcrawler, but never Kitty Pride.
But never Kitty White Pride. So
yeah. Kitty Prejudice.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.